Hello, my name is Jeremy, and welcome to this afternoon devotional. We'll be reading through the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 20, and then Jesus is calling for today. Um, yeah, a little joke. If you get it, awesome. If you don't, that's okay. But the information was all true. I was not expecting to do that until the screen turned on. So, um, sorry, that wasn't a bit better planned. If you can hear some water going off, that's my cat's water. Um, I need to clean a filter so that it uh, goes silent. Um, but it's had some calcium buildup, I guess. So I got to clean it again. But, anyways, we're not here to talk about cat water and an awkward musical that I tried to sing, but we're here to read through Jesus is calling for today in the book of 1 Samuel chapter 20. And just one little bit of an announcement before we get started. I am going to be taking the next week off from doing the devotional, so I won't be back on Monday. I'll be back the following Monday. But in that time, you can go back, check out the YouTube channel, read the Bible for yourself. Maybe, check out a couple of church services, a couple of podcasts. But, I'm this little daily devotional time. We'll be taking a little bit of a break, but there's many other ways that you can do it with and for yourself, and then we'll connect again. Not this Monday, but the following Monday. But yeah, so now that announcement is out of the way, hello, Rachel, welcome. This is today's devotional for February 6th. Come to me and rest. I am all around you to bless and restore. Breathe me in with each breath. The way just ahead of you is very steep. Slow down and cling tightly to my hand. I am teaching you a difficult lesson, learned only by hardship. Lift up empty hands of faith to receive my precious presence. Light, love, life, joy, and peace flow freely through this gift. When your focus turns away from me, you grasp for other things. You drop the glowing gifts of my presence as you reach for lifeless ashes. Return to me. Regain my peace. And that was inspired by 3 different Bible verses. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. Matthew 11:28-29. And then I want men everywhere to lift up holy hands in prayer without anger or disputing. 1 Timothy 2:8. And then lastly, therefore, tell my people, this is what the Lord Almighty says. Return to me, declares the Lord Almighty, and I will return to you, says the Lord Almighty. Zechariah 1:3. And may God add a blessing to the reading of his word. So, hi Langley. Hello. I now want to listen to that musical. Yeah, the intro was from a musical. So now, we're going to be jumping into the book of 1 Samuel. So 1 Samuel, where we just read off, Saul got angry and jealous and furious at David after making a promise to his son Jonathan, like Saul's son Jonathan, that he would not kill him. He just was so overwhelmed with hate and fear that he grabbed a spear and chucked it at David, and David narrowly escaped and was like, okay, I need to leave because I think he's going to kill me. Jonathan goes home. His wife is like, yeah, just leave. I'll stall them. And he books it out. Saul sends a bunch of guards to David's house to kill him. And David's gone. Saul tracks down David, and he sends men to go and kill David. But as they're getting close to him, David is with the prophet, and they come in and they start prophesying, and they start praising God, and they don't go and kill him. They stop short. So then he sends out another regiment. Then he sends out another regiment. Same thing happens again and again. And then finally, I was like, if you want someone dead right, then you gotta kill him yourself. And he goes after David. And then as he's approaching, he's reminded of God's presence. And he falls and he starts prophesying again. And then the people around that see it are like, oh, even Saul is a prophet? And that is where our story is going to continue. All right. So, 1 Samuel chapter 20. Jonathan helps David. David now fled from Neoth-Ram and found Jonathan. What have I done? He exclaimed. What is my crime? Have I offended your father that he is so determined to kill me? That's not true, Jonathan protested. You're not going to die. He always tells me everything he's going to do, even the little things. I know my father wouldn't hide something like this from me. It just isn't so. Then David took an oath before Jonathan and said, your father knows perfectly well about our friendship. So he said to himself, I won't tell Jonathan. Why should I hurt him? But I swear to you that I am only a step away from death. I swear it by the Lord and by your own soul. Tell me, what can I do to help you? Jonathan exclaimed. David replied, tomorrow we celebrate the New Moon Festival. I've always eaten with the king on this occasion, but tomorrow I'll hide in the field and stay there until the evening of the third day. If your father asks where I am, tell him I asked permission to go home to Bethlehem for the annual family sacrifice. If he says, fine, you will know all is well. But if he's angry and loses his temper, you will know he is determined to kill me. Show me this loyalty as my sworn friend, for we made a solemn pact before the Lord. Or kill me yourself if I have sinned against your father. But please, don't betray me to him. Never! Jonathan exclaimed. You know that if I had the slightest notion my father was planning to kill you, I would tell you at once. Then David asked, how will I know whether or not your father is angry? Come out of the field with me, Jonathan replied. And then they went out together. Then Jonathan told David, I promise by the Lord, the God of Israel, that by this time tomorrow, or the next day at least, I will talk to my father and let you know at once how he feels about you. If he speaks favorably about you, I will let you know. But if he's angry and wants you killed, may the Lord strike me and even kill me if I don't warn you, so that you can escape and live. May the Lord be with you as he used to be with my father. May you treat me with the faithful love of the Lord as long as I live. But if I die, treat my family with this faithful love, even when the Lord destroys all your enemies. No, Joxer. Enemies from the face of the earth. So Jonathan made a solemn pact with David, saying, may the Lord destroy all your enemies. And Jonathan made David refrain from his vows of friendship again, for Jonathan loved David as he loved himself. Then Jonathan said, tomorrow we celebrate the New Moon Festival. You will be missed when your place at the table is empty. The day after tomorrow, toward evening, go to the place where you hid before, and wait there by the stone pile. I will come out and shoot 3 arrows to the side of the stone pile as though I were shooting at a target. Then I will send a boy to bring the arrows back. If you hear me tell him they're on this side, then you will know, as surely as the Lord lives, that all is well, and there is no trouble. But if I tell him, go further, the arrows are still ahead of you, then it will mean you must leave immediately, for the Lord is sending you away. And may the Lord make us keep our promises to each other, for he has witnessed them. Continuing from 24. Actually, I want to take a sip, but we're at verse 24. My cat was slightly distracting me there, so I'm sorry about that. All right, verse 24. So David hid himself in the field, and when the new moon festival began, the king sat down to eat. He sat at his usual place against the Abner beside him, but David's place was empty. And Saul didn't say anything about it that day, for he said to himself, something must have made David ceremonially unclean. But when David's place was empty again the next day, Saul asked Jonathan, why hasn't the son of Jesse been here for the meal either yesterday or today? Jonathan replied, David earnestly asked me if he could go to Bethlehem. He said, please let me go, for we are having a family sacrifice. My brother demanded that I be there. So please, let me get away to see my brothers. That's why he isn't here at the king's table. Saul boiled with rage at Jonathan. You stupid son of a whore! He swore at him. Do you think I don't know that you want him to be king in your place, shaming yourself and your mother? As long as that son of Jesse is alive, you'll never be king. Now go and get him so I can kill him. But why should he be put to death? And Jonathan asked his father, What has he done? Then Saul hurled his spear at Jonathan, intending to kill him. So at last, Jonathan realized that his father was really determined to kill David. Jonathan left the table in fierce anger and refused to eat on the second day of the festival, for he was crushed by his father's shameful behavior toward David. The next morning, as agreed, Jonathan went out into the field and took a young boy with him to gather his arrows. Start running, he told the boy, so you can find the arrows as I shoot them. So the boy ran, and Jonathan shot an arrow behind him. When the boy had almost reached the arrows, Jonathan shouted, The arrow is still ahead of you! Hurry! Hurry! Don't wait! So the boy quickly gathered the arrows and ran back to his master. He, of course, suspected nothing. Only Jonathan and David understood the signal. Then Jonathan gave his bow and arrows to the boy and told him, Take them back to town. As soon as the boy was gone, David came out from where he had been hiding near the stone pile. Then David bowed 3 times to Jonathan with his face to the ground. Both of them were in tears as they embraced each other and said goodbye, especially David. At last, Jonathan said to David, Go in peace, for we have sworn loyalty to each other in the Lord's name. The Lord is the witness of this bond between us and our children forever. Then David left, and Jonathan returned to the town. May God add a blessing to the reading of his word. This last section here does a little bit of a foreshadowing towards Jesus. 1 Samuel 20:42. At last Jonathan said to David, Go in peace, for we have sworn loyalty to each other in the Lord's name. The Lord is the witness of a bond between us and our children forever. Then David left, and Jonathan returned to town. Here, Jonathan is committed to laying down his life for his friend and risk his life to do it. Jesus makes the same commitment when he says, "There is no greater love than to lay down one's life for one's friends. You are my friends if you do what I command." John 15, verses 13 and 14. Yeah. This is one of those kind of heartbreaking chapters. And it's a tough one. There's a lot of different things going on at this point in time in the story, but David is convinced Saul's trying to kill me. Jonathan, out of love for his father, who has already, tried to kill him once, but God intervened and the people intervened, is like, no, my dad can't do this. My dad's not going to do that. And they come up with the plan to, protect, or not to protect, to find out the truth. And, I think Jonathan was like, yeah, if my dad gets a little bit angry about it, I don't know. But Saul explodes. He's like, you're going to bring shame to your father and to your mother, you son of a... And he ends up totally calling his wife something awful as he's angry at Jonathan for bringing shame to her and to him. And it's like, okay, so, Saul is just so angry, so unself-aware that he's letting his anger control him in a really negative way. And he swears at Jonathan and then throws a spear trying to kill him for a second time. Because David is being protected by Jonathan, Jonathan's life is in danger from his own father, who's supposed to love him, who's supposed to be raising him up to king. The succession plan for Saul is Jonathan, and Saul is getting ready to kill Jonathan. And that's kind of foreshadowing what Jesus does. Jesus does lay down his life. He calls us his friends, and he lays down his life for us. He didn't just risk it, he laid it down. But you have the heartbreak of a son knowing that his dad's anger is greater than his love for Jonathan. And Jonathan is finally realizing that. So not only has he lost the trust and love of his dad in this chapter, he's losing his best friend, because they can't remain friends. Otherwise, David's going to die. This is such a heartbreaking section for Jonathan. He kept his promise. He's following through. God is honoring what they're doing, but it's like Saul's anger is just hurting so many people around them. And Jonathan's caught in the crossfire. Jonathan's sister and David's wife is caught in the crossfire. Saul's family is getting ripped apart because of his hatred and his jealousy and his wanting to hold on to power. He's still trying to justify his wrong actions instead of just going, all right, God, I messed up. He's just going further and further and further and further into sin. And it's ripping his family apart. And Saul is so blinded by hate and anger that I don't know if he really realizes it, even though he tried to kill Jonathan. And this is a really heartbreaking and hard chapter for me to read because I know I thankfully have not experienced this myself, but I've never met my dad partially because he was kind of like what Saul was like. Um, his anger and his hate made it so my mom was like, I can't raise a son in this environment. And I grew up not knowing my dad because he had anger issues like Saul. I know a lot of people whose parent or parents, their anger at times is greater and more powerful than their love, like Saul's was here. Sometimes they get help. Sometimes they try to self medicate and it makes things worse. Sometimes they go to AA and they get cleaned up and things start to get better and their love starts getting stronger than their hate again. Because it wasn't always this way. But that's why forgiveness can be so, so powerful. If you can forgive whatever's driving you crazy, if you can humble yourself to be like, yeah, and that jealousy isn't going to be something that drives you, it can be a powerful, powerful thing. But if you can't, it can be just as powerful in the opposite direction, maybe even more so. It's a tough one. I started working for YFC 15 years ago doing street outreach. There's a lot of people that were on the streets, living in the forests and stuff like that, because they had parents like Saul. And it drove them to not be at home. It drove them to sleeping in the woods. It drove them to try to make it on their own because living in the forest was better and easier than living at home with a roof and food. They chose maybe to starve rather than to go home because they had parents like Saul. And then this is a tough situation. How do you reconcile honor your father and mother when their hate is greater than their love? Part of it, part of the way that you honor them is that you do the best that you can to do what is right. And when you have those conversations, if you have those conversations, you encourage them to get help. And you tell them honestly why they're not there. During this lockdown, I've had conversations with people that trusted who they were to their parents. Just, sometimes with sexual orientation or what have you, and they got kicked out of their house and had to find a new place to stay during this pandemic. Thankfully, the person that I'm thinking of right now, like they found a place in a different school district and they're doing pretty well, but it doesn't always end up well. So I'm going to be praying for a couple people, specifically off of camera, that this has motivated me towards. Yeah, let's pray. AJC, awesome Jesus Christ, I thank you so much for loving us. I pray that our addictions and our hates don't outshine our love. Teach us to forgive. Teach us to be humble. Let us not be like Saul and rip friendships apart, rip our family apart, while somehow twistedly justifyingly thinking that we are protecting the honor. How dare you dishonor while I will dishonor? Saul's family is torn apart. This is a heart-wrenching part of the Bible. And it kept the swears in there. This is a lot of people think the Bible's squeaky clean. That's one of the first times I've sworn in a long time, and it was on camera. And Lord, it's so heartbreaking. Lord, help to teach us to love greater than our hate. Help us to forgive greater than our hate. And our hurt and our jealousy and our feelings of inadequacy. Lord, help us. Help us. And if we're in Jonathan's shoes, help us to find ways of not just paying lip service or whatever, but to actually find ways of trying to honor our families in those ways and not break the Ten Commandments. But it's hard. It's hard when you have a loved one that's supposed to look after you and they don't. And they mentally or physically or even sexually abuse you. When they hurt the people that you care about because of their jealousy. Lord, you know the people that are coming to my head right now, and I'm actually holding back some tears as I'm thinking about their personal stories. I don't know why there's so much evil in the world, Lord. Why there's so much hurt. But it's not a new thing. It's not a new thing. And we're seeing it play out in this story. I lift up the Jonathans and the Davids in our community. And I lift up the Sauls that should be able to look past that anger and the hurt. So teach us to love greater than our hate. Help us to seek justice and to love mercy and to walk humbly with you, Lord. Yeah, amen. I don't know. I actually did tear up a little bit there. Yeah. I was not expecting that. Oh, yeah. If you have like a drinking problem and you're going to something like AA or something, I have so much respect for you. Thank you. Going to NA, Narcotics Anonymous, or AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, or Celebrate Recovery. It's important. It's a big move. Thank you. Have a great, fantastic week. Sorry for leaving you on such a sad note. At least it's sad for me. Anyways, see you guys not on Monday, but the following Monday. And I encourage you to check out one of your local churches tomorrow. Yeah, be blessed. Later.